Hello and welcome back to K-Tech Designs. My name is Seth. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to make a CNC'd plaque in FreeCAD. We'll go over how to make the body and how to use shape string to create text, which you can use for the operations. And then we'll go over the engrave, pocket, and profile with a dress up operation in the Path Workbench. In the next video, I'll show you how I put this all together with a base and an LED strip to make this display. And with that, let's move on. Alright, so from the start page in FreeCAD, let's create a new part. Let's move over to the part design workbench. Let's go ahead and create a part container first. So that's created now. And then let's create a body within that container. And let's create a sketch. It is important when setting up your model to model it based on your CNC machine. So for example, my CNC machine is going to treat this point as the 0 point. And so everything is essentially going to be in this first quadrant here. And so when I'm making my model, I'm going to keep that in mind, that I want every feature to be in this quadrant. And also, since the top will be my 0 point of my part, all of the model extrusion should go below this horizontal plane. So let's pick this top plane here. And let's draw our rectangle. Let's dimension it here. This vertical leg is 127 millimeters. This horizontal leg is 110. Close that, pad that, and we want to make sure that the pad is reversed. And I'm using a 2 millimeter PETG clear plastic sheet. So 2 millimeters is the thickness. Now you can do this next part a couple different ways. You could add it to the base sketch, which might be a better design. But you can also add it secondarily if you want to make edits to it without disturbing the pad sketch. And what I'm referring to is a little cutout here and here to create a tab that will sit into the LED base. Alternatively, we could also just model a tab on the end instead of modeling cuts. There's more than one way to do it. It just depends on what your preference is and how easy it is for you to maintain the model based on how you've modeled it. Actually, let's change that. So I was going to model it one way, but I decided that adding a tab at the end is actually a smarter way to do it. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's change the 110. Let us subtract 16 millimeters. All right. I'm going to add a sketch here for the tab. That was weird. Whole part was hidden. Like that. Let's do this. 94. And I want this distance. First of all, I want this to be 67. And then this distance is going to be 127 minus 67 all over 2. Perfect. And then that way we can easily modify the depth of that tab, which is 16. All right, and then we'll pad that as well. Reverse it. It is also 2 millimeters. Click OK. All right, so next we need to fillet these edges. And they should be 12 millimeters. I will add the visible edges here and then change to wireframe to grab the one in the back. Click OK. And then we want to fillet these edges with a 3 millimeter fillet. Oops. And grab that hidden edge there. All right, so that's the plate. Now we want to add our text. So KTech for me and designs as the tagline. So we're going to create a pocket to do that. And this part is going to be a little bit of cheating for you guys. I already have an SVG created for the KTech logo. So I'm just going to load that in. And it's not really critical for this project how you do that. It's really just to show that if you have a pocket and a text string, how to create a CNC path for those two. So I'm going to import. Yep. Okay, so I've imported my text here. It looks like there's some extra stuff that I don't need. Let's delete that. So we're left with all of these path features. And we want to convert it into a sketch. And I went over this in a previous video, making the KTech Designs logo coaster. We need to go over to the Draft Workbench. And the first thing I'm going to do is I think it's just draft to sketch. Yep. Now these I'm just going to hide. And we can take this sketch and let's move it over closer. And we also need to rotate it. So let's just go ahead and use the placement here. 90. Yep, there it is. Let's move it again. And of course, we're going to have to scale it. But I'm just going to move it close enough first. Here's the scale button. Make sure your mouse doesn't dip into the work area so that you can leave your scale axis point 000. Click that. And I probably want it 0.8 maybe. Nah, it's still a little big. 0.6. How about 0.7? 0.65. Yeah, that looks good. Click OK. So it created a clone. Forgot about that. Just converted back to a sketch. That's fine. Now we can move this. Let's get this out of the way. Move the sketch into the body. And we can move it a little bit again. Let's say right there. Now let's go back to the Part Design Workbench, create a pocket. And this pocket does not need to be very deep. I would say 0.5 millimeters at the most. I'm going to go with 0.3. Actually, let's go back into that sketch, and I'm going to add a little rectangle here underneath the sketch. And I'm going to leave this sketch undefined. It should be fully defined as a good practice, but this will be fine for what we're doing here. Let's make this leg. Oh, I see. So we'll do 127 minus 12. And we'll make this leg 3.3. And we'll arbitrarily set this distance at about 38. Just something that looks good there. Looks like I'd actually move all of this up a little bit. Oh, sorry about that. Yes, let's get this dimensioned fully, at least that part, and that should be 6. Okay, that looks better. Perfect. Okay, so now that's done. Let's go back to the draft workbench, and we're going to put in a shape string. The string is going to be designs, all caps, and the height, 10 millimeters, that works. So then we're going to go into the font. We need to navigate to our font folder, which should be Windows. Where's Windows? There it is. Windows, fonts. And I'm using a font called Apple T. There's a website called Dafont, D-A-F-O-N-T. And that's where I downloaded the font that I'm using here. I'm going to leave these at 00, and we'll just click OK. Now it'll stick it in at the origin there, and we need to move it around. So let's first rotate it 90 degrees, and then we can, whoops, don't want it about an axis. Let's move it up a little bit. Yeah, 5 looks good, and then we want it 75 back. We could do it a little further. Actually, maybe let's move this sketch so that it's a little more centered. We should be able to just move the sketch, actually. Yep. Maybe that should be 0. Yeah, I think that works. Perfect. Okay. We'll go with 7. All right. So now the plaque is done. Now let's move over to the Path Workbench. And let's create a new job. Yeah. So when we create a new job, if you have a template, it's very convenient to do that. And I think I showed you how to make a template in the last CNC video. But if I haven't, I apologize. And then we want to make it off of this part. Actually, I think what we have to do, so it's only letting me see things that are at the level of the part container. I actually want to do this off of the body and the part. So let's go back to here. I realized what I did. So let's delete that group. I don't want to see those anymore. This shape string needs to be outside of the part. There we go. So we want to select, make sure that these are both coming into our CNC job. All right, excellent. So now from the job perspective, it's first going to ask you for the stock shape, and that's whatever you're making your part out of, whatever stock part you're putting into the CNC fixturing. And this doesn't need to be exact. You know, you can fixture whatever parts you want. It just needs to be bigger than whatever you're machining. And because I'm going to be doing a profile cut and a dress up, and I want to make sure that the simulation looks correct, I'm simply going to add some extra material on the outside. like that. So I can visualize that path. In actuality, the stock part I'm making this out of is much larger, but it's irrelevant. Once it's fixtured, then you set your 0 point. And then for the Z, it is a 2mm stock part. I'm not doing any surfacing, so I'm going to leave that as is. Now for the output, my processor is a Gerbil processor, so I'm leaving that alone. That's fine. Don't need to worry about that. Let's add the tools. We can do this in more than one place, but I like to just do it here. You can see that because I have a template, my desired bit is already loaded with the feeds that I want to have set up in the spindle speed. But at this point, you probably have one that just says default. What you're going to want to do is click add. There'll be default library bits already, but you'll pick the one that you want to use. Click OK on that, and then you'll go back to the default and then remove it because you only need one bit in there for this job. And then I set the bit to 1. The rest you can leave alone. So now we have our job container. And we want to process this pocket and this shape string. And then of course the profile. So let's begin with the pocket first. Click the flat face inside that pocket. We're going to go over to the pocket shape. Let's just click that first then. There we go. So we'll add that face, and then we need to add all of the other faces that are to be cut. All right, and then let's go over to our depth. The start depth. Okay, perfect. So that automatically calculated the correct depth based on the shape of the part. So the start should be 0, and the final depth should be 0.3. That's correct. The step down, that's probably fine. I'm not worried about that. And safe height operation. Yep, that all looks good. Now when we get to the cut mode, I think what I want to do is an offset. Click apply. Yeah, I believe the offset pattern created the most logical path through here. I didn't really want to zigzag or anything like that, so this is the pattern I used that looked the best. And you can see that it calculated what I wanted, so that's good. Well, that's a little different. Looks like it might be trying to do a face path, which is odd. I see. I added something I did not need to add. Let's just make that 1. Okay, that looks right. That is the funny thing about FreeCAD is it sometimes behaves in ways you don't expect. All right, let's move on. Let's do the shape string next. And this is going to be an engraved path. You could do a V-carve, but it doesn't seem to work the way I expect, so I may have to do some more research into what it's trying to do. But you could do an engrave with a V bit and get the same result. You wouldn't have to specify that it's a V-carve. So I'm just going to do an engrave. That's the shape string. The depth is correct. No, that's not correct. This should be negative 0.3. And the step down should be just 1. check the others. Let's apply that, see how that looks. Okay. So this start at vertex, I haven't really played around with it much, but I think that it controls. Shouldn't that be 0? Yeah, just leave that at 0. All right, so now the final step is going to be doing a profile operation. So you just click the top face, click profile. It's going to use that as its geometry there. The final depth should actually be -2, which is the thickness of the plate, and start it at 0. Step down, let's do 0.5. You could do several passes around the profile. Those are safety heights, and I usually do counterclockwise for no real reason, just that's how I want to see the machine running. Click apply, and that looks good. So now we want to take our profile, right click on it, and let's add a tag dress up. Now it's remembering the last tag dress up that I did, so that's what's going to pull up here. The width is 6 millimeters, meaning how long it is really. The height is 1 millimeter, so from the 0 point up is going to be 1 millimeter. The angle, I don't know exactly what that's controlling. Oh, the plunge angle, okay. So that could be 90, possibly. We'll leave it at 45. And then the radius will be 3, which is roughly the size of the bit diameter. Click apply. Oh, actually, let's add in an extra tag. So that way I can have 2 up here. Let's click OK on that. Okay, and that's it. The next step, of course, is to run the simulation to make sure that it's working properly. So let's see what that produces. Of course, the bit can't get into these corners, so that's fine. You'll still know that it says K-Tech. There's going to be some overlap here, but that's okay. Again, it'll look just fine when it's finished. And of course, the path dress up worked perfectly. And that'll allow me to clamp material here and here, and hold it just fine. And the final step will be to select your job, select post-process, pick a save location. I've got a CNC project job here, and use a standard name, but remember to add the file extension, which is .nc, And that's it. All right, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like if you like this video. Please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you have any questions or suggestions, please let me know that as well. And again, thanks for watching. Bye.